sneaking and dissing. But you know, Spency boy, about that action.
Okay, so just a little quick tip for some of you hater boys out there that still to this day call me Spencer Turkey. You do realize that I have a custom turkey emoji for the members of my channel to use in my live stream chat and the comments of my videos. Just a little quick tip for you, bro. You're not offending me at this point, okay? That's a term of endearment to me at this point, dog. You're gonna get me confused at thinking you're trying to bro up with me if you call me Turkey at this point. I'm just letting you know. Just letting you know. Okay, so let's get in here and talk a little bit about this field of view thing with MX bikes, because it seems like we got a lot of misconceptions out there. A lot of people think I've got this opinion that I really don't have on it. You know, there's a lot of crazy shit out there. So I wanted to come in here and just dive a little bit deeper into this, since we now have the option to raise our field of view higher than 110 in the game with beta 17, right? Just like I said on my older video on this field of view thing, right? Poboso has now done exactly what I said, okay? So there's proof in the pudding all over the place there, as there always is with the Spency boy, okay? And these MX Bikes Pro elitist dudes, they have a very big problem, and it's not just on MX Bikes, it's also on MX Simulator as well. A lot of dudes in these games, they get this complex in their head, like, well, I'm so fast in the game that if you don't set your bike up exactly like mine, if you don't play the game exactly like I do, if you don't run a field of view like I do, then you're just doing it wrong. You just don't know what you're doing, right? They have a very big problem with that. They've got a complex in their head that just because they're fast in the game, that means that they're doing it right, and anybody else that has any different opinion than doing exactly what they do is just wrong. And that's not going to make you faster, and that's not the right thing. You see what I'm saying? They have a really big problem with that, dog. It's as if some of these pro MX Bikes dudes get so caught up in their own head in thinking they're such a god at the game, and the fact that they don't run a higher field of view, then that all of a sudden means that it couldn't make anybody else faster in the game. You see what I'm saying? It's such a stupid outlook on it. It's like, bro, just because you don't run it at a higher field of view, but you're fast in the game, doesn't mean that a higher field of view couldn't help somebody else go faster in the game if it fits their riding style in the game. Do you see what I'm saying? But having a higher field of view for somebody that wants that and it fits their other first-person settings in the game and everything like that, it would certainly make a person like that faster in the game. And that was the only people I was really talking about when I said, you know, having a higher field of view make you faster in the game. I'm talking about, obviously, for people that are actually wanting a higher field of view, or people that ran a higher field of view on MX Sim, right? That's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying it in a one-dimensional basic level like every single player that's ever played MX Bikes is going to go faster with a higher field of view than 110. Jesus Christ. But when you have a game like MX Bikes that has pre-beta 17 had such a low field of view ceiling, such a low field of view, you know, maximum field of view that you could run in the game, obviously you're going to have a lot of guys that can't even get their field of view high enough to get that maximum comfortability in the game with how they're viewing the game to then get their full potential and to go as fast as they can actually go. That's what I meant by a lot of people can go faster with a higher field of view, because pre-beta 17, shit, you couldn't even get a higher field of view than 110 inside of the actual game. Obviously, they had all that shit where you could go through the little files of the game and raise your field of view up higher than that, hence the whole, secret thing I was speaking about, right? But other than that, I mean, you couldn't do it, right? You couldn't even, so I felt like there was a lot of guys that couldn't even get that field of view high enough to get their maximum potential out of the game speed-wise. That's all I was ever saying on that. And another little quick tip here for you, big dog. Yes, you should be faster than me at MX bikes. Yes, you should be faster than a guy that has less than 200 hours into the game. Yes. Bruh, the joke's on you with that almost as fast as Spencer Turkey, big dog. The joke's on you, brother. Just letting you know. Let me give you an example here. So, for instance, saying something like, I've said, raising your field of view makes you faster. Having a higher field of view makes you faster, right? And if you just look at that at a base level, obviously that could be looked at as a very stupid statement because there could be some guys that don't run a higher field of view that are really fast in the game or whatever. But what you have to understand is the way that I'm saying that with MX bikes is, and this is where a lot of you guys get confused, for each individual player playing the game differently, for them to have that opportunity where you've got enough different field of view options inside of the game to where they can really fine-tune and fit that field of view to their play style, that right there will certainly make somebody faster in the game. And the whole point of me saying it that way is because you got to understand the context of we're talking about MX bikes here. And pre-beta 17, the maximum field of view in the game was 110. Okay, just to have a little comparison here, MX Simulator's maximum field of view is like 170. So you could see there's quite a drastic difference there. And the whole point of me saying that is I felt like pre-beta 17, with only being able to get your field of view up to 110 as the maximum, you're obviously going to have a lot of guys that just simply can't get that field of view high enough to the level that they want it to that fits their riding style that would make those individuals faster. Okay? It would. Because they personally want a higher field of view than that super low maximum field of view of 110 in the game. So that was my whole point of if Poboso actually gave you a decent amount of field of view options, then it would make a lot of people faster in the game because then they could experience the game in a completely different way than they currently could, okay? Or like they experience MX Sim, right, with a higher field of view. See how it's not as simple as just me saying field of view makes you faster? And the other thing you have to understand with MX bikes as well is there is so many different camera options in this game that you can't just look at a field of view as a static, same for everybody kind of thing. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because if a certain individual has their first-person camera set to lock to the bike or not lock to the bike, that may change how much field of view they want in the game, right? And if a person is running the first-person camera or the second first-person camera in whatever combination with that lock to bike or not lock to the bike, that can totally change how much a person would think you would need a higher field of view or wouldn't need a higher field of view. Do you see what I'm saying? There's so many different options there with the camera settings of the game. And this is another big thing that a lot of you boys need to understand right here. And a lot of you dudes do understand this. I don't even have to explain it to you, but every once in a while I have to come in here and explain this to the people that don't really understand. Listen, I over-exaggerate a lot of things in my videos to make them more interesting, to make them more fun to watch. Okay? So you need to understand that right there. That's just part of my comedy. That's part of my unscripted going in there and making a video and just talking on the fly off the top of my head. You know, I'm going to go in there and say some crazy shit from time to time to make the video more exciting. That's kind of the whole reason of this YouTube shit, dog. Right? So you have to be very careful when you go in there and you take a little snippet of something that I say and you take it down to this granular level and then you take it way too seriously. You got to be careful doing that because you're going to get a very different result than what I was actually meaning when I was saying that. I'm not meaning every single person in the game has to run a higher field of view, or there's just no way in hell that somebody could go fast with a lower field of view. I wasn't never saying any of that. But if you take what I say and you you add your own little context around it, you could easily think that. But that's not how I was saying it. Do you understand what I'm saying? That was just my own personal opinion, like, hey, this is what this did for me in the game, all right? And I know that there's some of you other guys out there that higher field of view is going to fit your play style better, just like it did for me. Therefore, it's going to make you a lot faster in the game, a lot more comfortable in the game. That's what I meant by that. And I went in there and said something along the lines of like, all this gameplay that I've seen on YouTube, these pros gameplay that I've seen on YouTube looks like they're running a higher field of view, looks like it's a little more zoomed out. Again, that's just the gameplay that I've seen, right? I don't go in here and watch every single pro dude's gameplay on MX bikes on YouTube. I wouldn't, you see what I'm saying? I wasn't meaning it like that. I wasn't meaning it like, all right, every single person in the game that's fast in the game runs a higher field of view. You know what I mean? You got to be careful when you take something that literally, literally, good old Spency boy, literally, bro. We pretty much demolished the meaning behind that word at this point. You really got to understand there's a complete difference in me getting this impression that a lot of the pros run a little bit of a higher field of view, and me going in there and actually saying every single pro runs a higher field of view. Do you see my entire point there? I have these impressions and these sort of, it seems like there's pros run, it seems like a lot of people are running a higher field of view, but that's not me saying everybody runs a higher field of view, or every single pro runs a higher field of view, or you have to run a higher field of view. Do you see how different that is? And when I went in there and said stuff like, this is the whole game. This made me 3 times as fast. This is going to make you this much faster. This is going to do all these things. I meant that in a way of that's what it did for me, and it could do that for some of you. I wasn't saying that in a way of that's the only way to become a pro, and that's exactly how every single pro runs their shit. Like, I wasn't saying it like that, dog. Just a little secret to some of you boys as well. I don't run way higher of a field of view than 110. I think some of you need to understand that as well. Poboso raising their field of view from 110 to 130 was a world of plenty for what I run in the game, okay? So this is not like I'm talking about you need to run this drastically high field of view or anything like that. I mean, I run barely over 110, but it's just enough to where I felt like you could get a whole different experience out of the game pre-beta 17. That was my original point on all of that. I just wanted more field of view options in a game that has so many different play styles and other first-person camera settings, and, a game that's as deep as a simulator, you've just got to have more field of view options than that, We already had the 80, 90, 100, and 110 field of view, so all those people that were playing with that kind of field of view, they had no problem with anything. They were fine in the game, obviously, because they had their field of view that they wanted. But my exact problem with that right there is a lot of them guys that ran a lower field of view than 110, they looked at it like, well, there's no reason to have any higher of a field of view because this is what I run and this is what's comfortable for me and I'm fast in the game. So why the hell would you have any other higher field of views in the game? That would just be unrealistic. And that's what drives me nuts right there. People get so caught up in their own way of playing the game, and they think they're so good at it. That's precisely the point I was making with that. A lot of them guys didn't even want there to be a higher field of view than 110 in the game. So at that point, that would just limit your field of view options in the game. You had to have a higher field of view than 110, period. And how much more proof can you have than Poboso going in there in the very next beta, the very next update, and raising that in-game field of view from 110 to 130? Perfect. Exactly like I said. Exactly like I said they should do. There was apparently enough people running that or wanting to do that in the game for Poboso to then go in there in the very next beta and raise up the maximum field of view from 110 to 130 inside of the game. They obviously did that for a reason. Again, I'm not saying every pro runs that. Every single pro runs that, right? But obviously there was enough people for Poboso to add that in there. So my point was proven on the you don't even have enough of a field of view range in the game, a proper enough of a different field of view options in the game and a high enough field of view ceiling for all of your players to really be able to find their play style that could make them faster.